a Playlyst original.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast,
where we review the pilot episodes of TV shows to answer your question, should I watch this?
My name is Mitu.
And my name is BJ.
And this week we're watching The Acolyte on Disney+.
So stay tuned to find out what Mitu's favorite Star Wars movie is.
Whoa, okay. And I definitely can name them. Until then, why don't you tell us what happened in this show? Happily.
The Acolyte is set 100 years before the rise of the Empire. That means any of the movies that Mitu has definitely seen. The Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic have prospered for centuries without war. But during this time, an investigation into a shocking crime spree, potentially involving Osha, played by Amanda Stenberg, pits a Jedi Master Soul, played by Lee Jung-jae, against a dangerous warrior from his past. So, Mitu, what did you think with your Trekkie perspective coming into this Star Wars series?
You know, I am a Trekkie. I have to own that. I have seen a couple of the series now. I'm very into it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm just not necessarily as understanding of the Star Wars world. Well, understanding makes me sound like I don't tolerate it. I just don't watch it enough.
Yucky, Star Wars.
Yeah. I'm a Star Wars bigot. No, I'm not one of these review bombers. But I just don't know much about Star Wars, I should say.
Okay.
I do think what's interesting about this show is to see this from the perspective of a world where Jedis are respected. And so this is pre-Empire, this is pre-Darth, all the Darths, if you will. Mm-hmm. And this is a world where people kind of fear Jedis. They're definitely the bosses. They're not on defense, which is what I have typically seen in the ones that I've been awake for. And I think it's intriguing that there are these murmurs. They're like, uh-oh, there are these murmurs that people, you know, might not, maybe not everybody loves the Jedis. And what do we do about that? And I thought that was just an interesting world to be dropped into.
I agree. I like seeing a world where not only are there a lot more Jedis, because as the movies went on, there were fewer and fewer surviving Jedi.
R.I.P.
In this world, we do see them at their height, at their best, trying to protect the world and people just being more aware of who they are and what they can do. And it's nice that we don't have the same villain of here comes the Sith, here comes the Empire again. We can finally follow something new with the Jedi, and in this case, it seems to be a murder mystery.
Yes, and you made this point when we were talking about the show, which I really appreciated. This world allows us to focus more on a mystery and understanding different people's motivations versus a clear, this is the bad guy, absolute bad guy, or this is the absolute good guy I root for. Rather, I'm just intrigued by complicated people in a mystery that is itself complicated and mysterious.
Yes, and before we dive too much into the complicated people, I will say the one criticism I have of the show is that for the Jedi, specifically Trekkie, Yor, Vernestra, even Soul, they come across a little flat. Like, their personalities are very focused on, I am a Jedi, and this is how I do it. My personality does not vary much beyond that.
True. It was almost sitcom-y in that respect, where it was like,
yeah,
I'm the boss. I'm the one that is obsessed with the rules. I'm the rebel. I'm the one who I think was obsessed with the rules, but now I'm questioning what's going on because my friend is a suspect. It's very much that, very much sitcom setup. Or even classic mystery setup. It kind of makes me think of Death and Other Details, or any other kind of Agatha Christie type story where we have the ingenue, the robber baron type character, all of these different players in a mystery.
Yes. And with all of these players, how do you feel about our lead players, Osha and Soul?
I really liked Osha. I thought she was a fun character. I think she's a good lead for this show. I also am extremely intrigued by her. So the mystery at the beginning of this show, a crime happens. I care less about, let's say, why this crime happened in the sense of the crime itself. Like, I care less about why this specific person was targeted. I care more about the lore that went into it, because it's clear some things happened in Osha's childhood, whether she was part of this crime or not, that are part of the motivations for it. And she remembers it wrong, and maybe someone else close to her knows a little bit more, is how much I can say without pissing off people who don't want spoilers. So I think it's just very intriguing, her background, because it's so important for the show. And then she's just a fun character to watch. And good action.
Good action. And with the backstory and mystery, I like that it's more than just who committed that crime in the beginning, which it's fair to say it's a murder in the beginning. We won't go into more into that. But there's the other mystery of what's going on in the past with Osha. And it gets a little spooky at times. There's a lot of questions. There's suspicious people who may remember some details that would be helpful to us as the viewers. And then that is all interspersed with what I think a lot of people want from a sci-fi Star Wars scene or show is good action scenes. We have some great fights. We see some lightsabers. And we even have some cool action scenes in space.
Specifically, the scene of her on the spaceship in the criminal transport. Her trying to navigate, let's say, a dicey situation that her fellow criminals, well, we don't know if she did the thing or not, but her fellow passengers did, made me laugh so hard. I think that's also the magic of this character, that there is this creepy mystery. There is spooky elements, as you said. There are spooky elements, as you pointed out. But there's also fun. And she's fun.
She is. I like that she's not our typical lead that we've seen, at least in the movies. We do know that she used to train as a Jedi. She was a Padawan. She left that for whatever reason, which adds to her mysterious backstory.
I want to know about that.
She has a droid. I like that she has like a pocket-sized droid. I don't know if we've seen that before.
It's like if your iPad came to life.
But really. And it's also a Swiss Army knife.
Yes. Ooh, and I'm curious about her relationship with Yord. Because there seemed to be something there.
How do you feel about Yord? He seems like the cool guy, popular Jedi.
Okay. I think you're looking at him, which is why you think that. Because he's mostly nerdy and seems more into Law and Order. I think he is firmly a Jedi. I think something happened between he and Osha. But he obviously chose to stay and follow the Jedi rules. And I think that conveys a level of commitment to authority. But I think a little bit of disservice was done in his appearance, because his Killmonger hair makes you think he's more rebellious or cool than he is. And then there's this odd shirtless scene with him, which, like, I'm not complaining. Charlie Barnett is a very, very handsome man. But, like, I was a bit confused by it, because I was like, is he the nerdy character, or are we saying he's a cool, hot guy?
Yeah, we haven't seen a consistent portrayal for him yet. Yes. So that will be interesting moving forward. And you touch on something that's interesting lore-wise. So this show is set where we're really focused on the Jedi. And as we both know, emotions and how you control your emotions is very important for Jedi and the Force.
We do both know that well.
And so I'm curious about all these hints we're hearing of what went on between Yord and Osha. And then Trekkie, played by Daphne Keane, she's making hints that maybe Soul also has some attachment to Osha. And these are things that in the movies have led to bad things happening.
Yes. certainly that happened in the movies. We both recall that with clarity. I do think that Sol is an interesting character because he is clearly a powerful elder statesman of the Jedi community,
Master.
A Jedi ambassador, a Jedi HBIC, if you will.
Oh.
And also, he has an attachment, I think, to Osha. And he remembers her from her youth because he rescued her from something. And I think the way she remembers how that something went down and the way he knows maybe how that something went down will be an interesting thing to uncover as the show progresses. And it will affect their relationship.
Yes, some good breadcrumbs. And that made me think of a scene I just feel like highlighting for our listeners of Sol with the youth. We see him teaching some young Padawans, and he's like, close your eyes. Just let me know what you see. And one kid sees fire, and I was like, red flag, red flag, red flag.
Yes.
And I like that they're mixing in, like, it's not all peace. There are some concerning things happening even within the Jedi Council.
He handles it well, but they are definitely breadcrumbing that this peaceful, ordered world led by Jedis, there are some threats to it on the way.
And we know it will only last 100 more years.
True. It is literally set 100 years before the events of the first episode.
So, will you watch more episodes of The Acolyte on Disney Plus to find out about this 100-year prior storyline?
I will. And I'll tell you why. It is a really good mystery. I'm not a Star Wars girl, so I'm watching less for the point of like, when will Darth so-and-so take over? When will the Empires and the Siths and the Crips and whatever else come through and do their thing? I'm watching it from the perspective of what's going on with Osha. I want to know more about her background, and I'm very intrigued by her histories with Yord and with Sol. So that is where my curiosity is. And so I'll keep watching from that perspective, and I recommend it to other mystery fans.
I agree with that. I am definitely going to watch this seriously. I am a Star Wars fan, so that already made me interested. And this mystery, I think, is what really pulls me in. I think Osha is a great character to bring us into this world. She has a lot going on. And I want to see that journey and uncover these connections that you mentioned that she has to all the other characters on the cast.
All right, so we'll both be watching again seriously.
And also, in terms of your Star Wars viewing, please let me and the listeners know which was your favorite Star Wars film.
Yes, absolutely. I remembered that you asked that question, and I am not looking anything up right now.
You're not typing into your browser.
Mm-mm.
You're not now scrolling Wikipedia.
No. And I can confidently say that my favorite Star Wars movie is Star Wars The Force Awakens.
Oh, I think maybe we saw that together.
I think so. Is that the first one with John Boyega?
Yeah, that's the first of the new trilogy. We saw at least one of those together.
Exactly. So I knew that, and I remembered that you and I watched it together, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, so you're more of the new school Star Wars.
Yeah, I know it's controversial. You know, I'm in the Star Wars Reddit streets fighting for the new school. Well, I didn't really like the subsequent movie.
Oh, you didn't like the whole trilogy. You just liked that specific movie.
Okay, Star Wars people, let me know. I thought John Boyega would be a bigger part of the trilogy because of the events of that first movie.
Yes.
I thought we saw signs of the Force in him.
Yes.
But then, for the other two movies that I watched, he was like less and less in them, period.
Yes.
But then also was not a Force character.
Yes.
So I didn't like that.
The trilogy was planned to be a trilogy without a storyline set in place. So each director decided how they wanted the story to continue. And so whatever hints the first director set up, the second director, did not have to turn John Boyega's character into a Jedi.
So for something as intense as Star Wars, where people are obsessed with canon and continuity and story, they brought in 3 different directors who each had independent thoughts on the direction of the story?
I think the first and the third movie were both the same person.
Okay. But by the third movie, whatever hints were sowed in the first movie were undone by the second movie.
Correct.
Fascinating. You know, this is a helpful lesson that everything's a little messy, and that's okay. You know? Like, sometimes if things in your life feel a little messy, at least you are not in charge of some, like, multi-billion-dollar series.
And that's why we have not had any Star Wars movies since.
Okay. When was the last one, then?
That was, like, pre-2020.
Oh, that's true. I actually think I saw it in IMAX.
Probably. We used to be, like, super regular moviegoers back then.
That's true. You know, I'm back in the movies. We're so far off topic, but I'm back in the movie theaters.
But now you do the premium dinner and a movie stuff, right?
I do. I take myself out. I make a whole occasion of it.
I'm still streaming Hive. I'll wait.
No, I watched The Fall Guy, for example, in theaters, and it needed to be watched in theaters. I don't think it would have been as satisfying on streaming.
I will never know.
On that note, where can people find more episodes of the Pilot Podcast?
All you have to do is head to our website at thepilotpodcast.com, and you can follow us on all of your favorite podcast platforms.
You can also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at The Pilot Pod, and you can send thoughts, feelings, show recommendations, because every other week, just like this one, we do a show recommended by you, our wonderful listeners, and your Star Wars theories to askthepilotpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Bye.